The rain mirrored the storm inside me, a relentless downpour washing over the perfectly manicured lawns of our life. Eleanor, my wife, always loved the rain. She said it cleansed the world, washed away the dust. But tonight, it felt like it was trying to wash away me, my sense of self, everything I thought I knew. This locket, it was a foolish gift, a relic from a past I tried to bury. A past I thought was long gone. I found it tucked away in her jewelry box, hidden beneath a cascade of diamonds and pearls. A past that whispered of unspoken desires, of a life unlived, a life she seemed to crave now more than our own. The portrait inside, a younger Eleanor, her hair a vibrant, untamed flame, stared back at me with an intensity that both captivated and terrified me. It was a face I thought I knew, but now saw with new, unsettling clarity. The scent of old paper and forgotten secrets filled the air, a suffocating reminder of the chasm that had silently opened between us. I remember the first time I saw her, at a gallery opening in Paris. Her laughter was like wind chimes, her eyes held galaxies. I was instantly and irrevocably drawn to her, unaware of the tempestuous nature that lay beneath the surface. Now, that tempest was raging, and I was caught in its destructive path. I should have seen the warning signs, the fleeting glances, the carefully veiled conversations. But I was blinded by love, by the illusion of perfection. Paris. A city of love, of dreams, and now, a betrayal. I remembered this day. The sun felt warm on my skin, the air thick with the scent of coffee and croissants. Eleanor, radiant as ever, was captivating the attention of everyone around her, but it wasn't me she was looking at. It was him. I had introduced her to Jean-Luc, an artist, a charming rogue with eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. A dangerous kind of charm. I had dismissed it at the time, a fleeting flirtation, a harmless encounter. I told myself I was being paranoid, that my insecurities were getting the better of me. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it had taken root, growing into a poisonous vine that choked the life out of our marriage. The way she looked at him, it was a look I hadn't seen directed at me in years. A look of longing, of passion, of a hunger that I no longer seemed to satisfy. I watched them, frozen in place, as they shared a private joke, their eyes locked in a silent conversation. In that moment, I understood. The subtle shifts in her behavior, the late nights at the gallery, the hushed phone calls, it all made sense. The rose. A symbol of love, of passion, of fleeting beauty. Eleanor had brought it home that evening, its crimson petals a stark contrast to the muted tones of our living room. She placed it on the mantelpiece, a silent declaration, a subtle reminder of the feelings she had kept hidden for so long. I wanted to ask her where it came from, but the words caught in my throat. I couldn't bring myself to confront her, to shatter the fragile illusion of normalcy that we had painstakingly constructed over the years. Instead, I retreated into myself, burying myself in work, in routine, in anything to avoid the inevitable confrontation. The rose sat there, a silent witness to my pain, a constant reminder of the love that had withered and died. The night the world crumbled. I found the room in disarray, a scene of quiet devastation. Clothes scattered across the floor, a broken picture frame, a shattered photograph. The air was thick with the scent of perfume and regret. I didn't need to see the evidence to know what had happened. The silence in the room screamed louder than any argument ever could. It was a slow, agonizing realization, a painful unraveling of everything I had believed in. The trust, the intimacy, the shared dreams, all reduced to shards of glass. I felt a profound sense of loss, not just for my wife, but for the future we had envisioned, for the life we had planned to build together. The moonlight seemed to mock me, casting long, distorted shadows that danced with my despair. I knelt on the floor, amidst the wreckage, feeling utterly defeated. The beach. A place of solace, of contemplation, of letting go. I came here seeking answers, seeking escape, seeking some semblance of peace. The wind whipped around me, carrying the scent of salt and the mournful cries of gulls. The waves crashed against the shore, a relentless rhythm of sorrow. I watched the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange, purple, and gray. It felt like the end of an era, the closing of a chapter in my life. I wondered if there was any way to salvage what remained, any way to rebuild the trust that had been so carelessly broken. But deep down, I knew it was over. The damage was too profound, the betrayal too deep. Whiskey. A temporary anesthetic, a fleeting escape from the pain. The amber liquid swirled in the glass, a hypnotic dance of light and shadow. The warmth spread through me, easing the ache in my chest, numbing the sharp edges of my grief. But it was only a temporary reprieve. The truth was inescapable, a constant, gnawing presence. I took a long swallow, the alcohol burning its way down my throat. It didn't numb the pain, it simply masked it, pushing it down into the recesses of my mind. I knew I needed to face the reality of the situation, to accept the inevitable. But it was so hard, so incredibly painful. The confrontation. It was inevitable, a reckoning that had been brewing for months. We met in our living room, the air thick with unspoken accusations and simmering resentment. Eleanor avoided my gaze, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. Her composure was carefully constructed, a facade of innocence that barely concealed the turmoil within. I laid out the evidence, the whispers, the glances, the subtle shifts in her behavior. She denied everything, of course, her voice laced with a practiced sincerity that I no longer believed. The words hung in the air, heavy with disbelief and betrayal. It was a painful, excruciating experience, a confirmation of my worst fears. The silence. After the argument, a heavy silence descended upon our home, a palpable barrier that separated us. The air was thick with unspoken words, with regret, with a profound sense of loss. We existed in the same space, but we were worlds apart. The door between us had closed, and I didn't know if it could ever be reopened. I stood in the hallway, staring at the closed door, feeling a sense of utter isolation. It represented not just the end of our marriage, but the end of a shared history, of a future we had envisioned together. The decision. I made the decision to leave, to sever the ties that bound me to this life, to this woman. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was a necessary one. I couldn't stay in a place where trust had been shattered, where love had been betrayed. I packed a suitcase, filling it with the essentials, with memories, with a few mementos of a life that was fading away. Each item I placed in the bag felt like a small act of defiance, a step towards reclaiming my own identity. The road. I drove for hours, putting distance between myself and the wreckage of my former life. The highway stretched out before me, a seemingly endless ribbon of darkness, mirroring the uncertainty of my future. The headlights cut through the night, illuminating the road ahead, but they couldn't dispel the shadows that lingered in my mind. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to keep moving, to keep searching for a new path, a new purpose. The bar. I found solace in the anonymity of the bar, surrounded by strangers, yet feeling utterly alone. The dim lighting and the murmur of conversations provided a temporary distraction from the pain. I nursed a drink, watching the people pass by, each one carrying their own stories, their own burdens. I wondered if anyone else had experienced a betrayal like mine, if anyone else had felt the same sense of loss and despair. A new beginning. Months later, I saw her. Eleanor. She was at an art exhibition, her face radiant, her eyes filled with a newfound confidence. She was painting, her hands moving gracefully across the canvas, creating something beautiful from the chaos. I watched her from a distance, feeling a strange mix of emotions, sadness, anger, and a flicker of something else, something akin to forgiveness. The art. Her paintings had changed. They were bolder, more expressive, filled with a raw emotion that had been missing before. She had poured her pain, her regret, her liberation onto the canvas. It was a testament to her resilience, to her ability to find beauty even in the darkest of times. I realized that she, too, was healing, was rebuilding her life, was finding her own path. A conversation. We met for coffee, tentatively at first, then with a growing sense of openness. There was no anger, no recriminations, just a quiet acknowledgement of what had happened. We spoke about the past, about the pain, about the mistakes that had been made. We didn't dwell on the details, but we acknowledged the truth. It was a difficult conversation, but it was also cathartic, a step towards closure. Memories. I looked at the photograph. A younger version of us, smiling, carefree, full of hope. It was a reminder of what we had lost, but also of what we had shared. The memories weren't all painful. There were moments of joy, of laughter, of deep connection. I realized that even though our marriage had ended, those memories would always be a part of me. Acceptance. The autumn leaves falling from the trees seemed to mirror the shedding of the past. I was learning to accept what had happened, to let go of the anger and the resentment. I was beginning to see that betrayal, while devastating, didn't have to define me. Moving forward. The city lights twinkled below, a reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. I was starting to rebuild my life, to create a new future for myself. It wouldn't be the same as before, but it could be good. New connections. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones. I rediscovered passions I had forgotten, explored new interests. I found joy in simple things, in the company of good people. Self-discovery. I spent more time alone, reflecting on my life, my values, my goals. I learned to be comfortable in my own skin, to appreciate my own company. Strength. I had emerged from the wreckage stronger, wiser, more resilient. I had learned that betrayal, while painful, could also be a catalyst for growth. I had discovered a strength within myself that I never knew existed. Healing. I continued to write, to journal, to process my emotions. Writing became my therapy, my way of making sense of the past, of understanding the present, of shaping my future. A new chapter. The sun was setting on the old chapter of my life, and a new one was just beginning. I was no longer defined by betrayal, by loss, by pain. I was defined by my resilience, by my strength, by my capacity for hope. I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it may hold.